How's it going, everyone? So this is the first lesson in the new unit on borrowing money. So in the previous unit, we talked about investing money. We talked about putting money into a bank account or into some kind of investment. And then that particular investment earns interest and we get more money at the end. We earn interest on it. So in that unit, we talked about earning interest, which is, you could think about it as a reward for saving your money, for putting it away. In this unit, we're going to talk about the other side. We're going to talk about when we take out a loan of some kind, we're going to be paying extra money. We're going to be paying interest back. So instead of earning money, we're going to be paying extra money. And it's, you can consider it like a penalty for borrowing, but when it comes to like high-end purchases, like you're buying a car or you're buying a house or something like that, there is extra money that you do have to pay back to the bank. So it says here there are many different kinds of loans. There are short-term loans. So for example, if you buy a car, maybe you take out a loan for 5 years. Or on the other side, there are also long-term loans. So like, for example, if you buy a house, you need a mortgage for the house. You can't just pull $300,000, $400,000 out of your pocket. You have to take out a mortgage. So that's money that you have to pay back to the bank. So that's kind of the difference between the two. There are also like student loans is another very popular one. If you go to university and you can't afford to pay for a year of university, you can take out a loan and pay that back as well. Credit cards are also kind of a form of loan. You buy stuff with the credit card, but then you have to pay the credit card off. And if you don't pay it back within a month, the credit card company is going to charge you interest. So we're going to be looking at the, I guess, like the whole financial calculator, but from more of a business point of view, or like a banking point of view, I guess you could say. So the good thing about this unit is we're still going to be using the financial calculator to do all of these calculations. So we still have our 7, I guess, variables, or like 7 things that we have to put numbers in. And again, we're going to put numbers in for 6 of these and then calculate the 7th. So we still have our N, our interest rate, our present value, if there are any payments, our future value, number of payments per year, and our compounding periods per year. And I'm just going to make another note here for the N number. This is the number of years times your PY number. That's what makes up the N number. So number of years times PY. Now, these instructions here are for the TI-83 calculator. You may or may not be using that depending on who is teaching the course. I'm going to use a financial calculator that is on the internet, so I'll show you kind of what that looks like, but it has all of the same information that we need to enter. So we're just going to run through an example here to get started here at the bottom of the page, which says Sarah borrowed $22,000 from a bank, 6.5% interest compounded monthly to buy a new fishing boat. She negotiated a regular monthly payment of $525 payable at the end of the month until the boat is paid off. How long will it take for her to pay off the loan? So I'm just going to write my 7 things that I need. So my N, I, PV, PMT, FV, PY, CY number. And we're going to fill all of these in one by one. So she borrowed $22,000 from the bank. So that's money that she received. So because she got that, her present value is $22,000. That's the money that she got. She is making payments of $525 a month. So she's giving that money away. So when we give money away, we're going to put a negative number into the financial calculator. So that's why it's negative 525. She's giving back $525. Interest rate 6.5%. The future value, well, if she's paying off the loan, I mean, eventually she's going to pay it down to nothing. So my future value is going to be 0. She is making monthly payments. It says a regular monthly payment. So my payment number is 12. And it is compounded monthly, so my compound number is 12. So we are going to be solving for this n number here. So I'm just going to switch over to my financial calculator. It's going to look really weird on the screen here for a moment. Here is my financial calculator, and we're going to put all of our numbers in here. Now we are solving for n in this case, so I'm going to click on the n tab and fill in all of my numbers for the rest of that we have in that we wrote down. So my interest rate is 6.5. My present value is 22,000. Making payments of 525. The future value is 0. And then to get the PY and CY numbers, we're just going to click on settings, and that is where we find those two PY and CY. So each of those was set to 12, and it says that she's making payments at the end of the each month. So that is already selected here. We're going to click calculate, and we get an n number of 4.250. So I actually just realized I accidentally put 2200 instead of 22,000. So I've updated that here, and now let's calculate it again. And that makes more sense, 47.659. Okay, so our n number was, what was it? I totally forgot, 47.659. 47.659. Now, when we make a payment, obviously we can't just make 0.6 of a payment, so we're always going to round this number up to the next whole number. So in this case, it's going to be 48. Now, this 48, because we are making monthly payments, that means it's going to take 48 months for her to pay it off. If the question were to ask to change it to years, keep in mind there's 12 months in a year, so if we divide that by 12, would be 4 years for her to pay it off. In this case, it didn't specify, so either of these is going to be correct. So another common question they might ask you is to determine the total amount of interest that you pay on a loan. And the very general way of kind of thinking about this, it is your total amount paid minus your loan amount. Now we can do this calculation ourselves, but depending again on which financial calculator you use, it might actually give that information to you. So my total amount paid is my n number times the monthly payment amount. Monthly payment. And then my loan amount is just whatever the loan is. So there is this example number 2 here that kind of piggybacks from example 1, which says how much interest will Sarah pay by the time the loan is paid off. So we can flip over to the financial calculator here. We can do this calculation. It also tells us what the answer here is. The total amount of interest is $3,020.92. And the way that they got that is they took our n number, 47.659, and if you multiply that by 525, you should get this number here, $25,020.92. So I've gone ahead and I've done that calculation here. $525, which was my monthly payment, times 47.659 was my n number that I got from the question. So when I multiply those together, I got 25,020.975 or 25,020.98. So I'm just going to write this in here, 47.659 times 525. And then from that, we're going to subtract our loan amount, which was $22,000. So this is 25,020.98 minus the 22,000. We get $3,020.98. in extra money of interest that needs to be paid back to the bank. We have one final example that we're going to look at here at the bottom. Example number 3 says, Jose is negotiating a mortgage on a house. So he's looking to buy a house and getting a loan from the bank. He has been told that he needs to make a 10% down payment on the purchase price of $225,000. Then the bank will offer a mortgage loan for the balance at 3.75%, compounded semi-annually for 20 years with monthly payments. Part A says, how much will each payment be? So we're going to be solving for the payment here. So again, I'm going to write my 7 different numbers here, PY and CY. It already says, just going through the information, we're going to be making monthly payments. So PY is going to be 12 because it's monthly. My compounding number is 2 because it's compounded semi-annually. Again, we're paying off a loan, so the future value is going to be 0. We're going to be solving for our monthly payments. My interest rate is 3.75%. My N number is, again, my number of years times my PY number. So that's going to be 20 times 12, or 240. You're making 240 payments. And my present value, this is the one that might be a little bit tricky. He's making a 10% down payment on the price of the house. So that means he has to come up with 10% of this cost up front. The remaining 90% is going to be the loan that he needs. So that's going to be my present value. So I'm just going to write this here. My present value is going to be 90%, or 0.9, times the cost of the house. All right, so we're just going to do that calculation quick. 0.9 times 225,000 gives me $202,500. So this is the loan that he needs from the bank. That's the money that they're going to give him. So that means that is going to be positive. So we're going to solve for PMT using our financial calculator. Just going to pull that up here quick. So we're solving for PMT. My N number is 240. My interest rate 3.75%. He's getting a loan of $202,500, looking to pay it off, so the future value is 0, making 12 payments per year, and it is compounded semi-annually. So when we go and hit calculate, our payments are $1,197.55. We're probably going to be coming back to this in a moment, so we'll just leave that there. I totally forgot what the answer is already, so I'm just going to click back. It is $1,197.55. Those are going to be his monthly payments back to the bank. Part B says, how much interest will Jose end up paying by the time he has paid off the loan? So he is making 240 payments of $1,197.55. So again, we wrote the interest formula just above there. It is my N number times my payment number, so 240 times 1197.55. And from that, we are going to subtract the amount of the loan, which was $202,500. Okay, so again, this is just a calculator question, but this answer was also on the financial calculator that I was using, so maybe we'll just double check and see if we got the same thing. So I got $84,912. And if we flip back to the financial calculator, theirs is $84,911.64. So just a few cents off. Okay, part C says, how much did he pay altogether? So this is going to be the total amount paid. And that is just my payments times, or sorry, my payment amount times how many payments I made. So he made payments of $1197.55. He made 240 of those. So we're just going to times those two numbers together. 1197.55 times 240 is $287,412. 287,412. So again, just to kind of recap what this example is, he took out a loan for $202,500, and in the end, he had to pay back $287,412, which is actually really not that bad. Usually when you buy a house, you pay about double the amount of the loan or the mortgage that you take out. So really, he got off pretty good on this one.